Harris. I want to start out vertical. I may wind up horizontal, but we picked a 2 o'clock slot, which is a great slot, right after lunch. I mean, the eyes are getting heavy and all this, but hopefully we can provide something provocative, stimulating, perhaps entertaining. I don't know if we can match some of the guys that were down at the bar last night. They were making great headway in solving some problems, and when I left them, I walked by there, and I for once in my life, I chose not to participate. Very atypical. But they were at the invincible stage at that point. I don't know if they reached invisible, but let's start out. We're going to try to cover 3 things. We're going to tell you who we are, what we do. We're going to tell you why we nominated companies. And we're going to tell you, hopefully, the one big thing that is kind of informing us and how we order our day. So, Joe, start out.
Thanks, Chip. I'm Joe Taylor. I run the venture business at FiRe. FiRe has about over 200 fire starters around the world. About 60 of them are over here in the US. Basically, we look for companies which can be world leaders in their field with distinctive and disruptive technologies and good people around that technology. And our big secret is actually making a pretty substantial large business appeal and relate to small companies.
Very good. Sim?
Hi, I'm Simonov with Polaris Venture Partners. Firm's in Boston, where I'm based, and also have a West Coast office in Seattle. We invest in everything from a guy with an idea to a company with over 100 million in revenue across basically everything from biotech and medical devices to hardware, software, consumer, digital media, et cetera. So fully diversified. And probably about 100 active companies. One is here called Veracode. And we're in the business of making small companies big. And so I want to find that match between the entrepreneurial drive of the founding team and their goals for influencing the world in a big way and sort of coach them along the way and obviously provide capital, although the dollars that I provide are perfect substitutes to the dollars that anybody else can provide. So the cash is certainly not a differentiator in this business.
Michael.
Michael Pfeffer, Kolohala Ventures. We're a Hawaii-based venture company. We're the best Hawaii venture company because it's a rather small pool right now. I feel like I should have been on the last panel in some way. We're about halfway through that awkward process in the state of Hawaii from sort of translating ourselves from an agrarian and tourist-based economy to one that at least has a big piece in the technology sector. And my partner Rob Robinson has a great analogy for the impatience that legislators have about where are all the success stories. And we tell them, the redwood trees, where are the redwoods? Well, they're right here. They're about 5 feet tall. It takes a while to translate an economy. Hawaii is well on its way. The thought I had here was sort of why Hawaii now, why Kolohala? Hawaii is going through that process. They've made tremendous strides. We have a great tax incentive program there. We've got a lot of good companies coming along. We missed the dot-com meltdown, and so we're kind of in the right curve. And we'd like to be boots on the ground for venture companies and investors to feel like they've got someone, a responsible adult in Hawaii that they can co-invest with and really help launch Hawaii and take it to the next level.
Great. Good afternoon. Barry Taylor. I'm a partner with Warburg Pincus, which is a global private equity firm with about 160 professionals based in Europe, North America, and Asia. We invest across all sectors, early stage, expansion capital, and buyouts. We do that across numerous industry verticals: energy, oil and gas, commercial real estate, industrial buyouts, technology, healthcare, financial services. We're particularly pleased. We talk about global trends that we've been investing in Europe, obviously, since 1987, and in Asia since 1994. We have over $1 billion invested in companies in India and over $1 billion invested in companies in China, and we're quite active now in Central and Eastern Europe.
Excellent. And I'm Jeff Terry. I have a company called Aberdeen Investment Management located in Dallas, Texas, where we do performance-based research. We want to make lots of money real fast. Basically targeting very small set, no more than 10 companies at a time of technology businesses with basically digital business models. We want to, where we can, love to do have companies that are what I call MXM companies, leveraging Metcalfe's law in terms of the revenue structure, and Moore's law in terms of their cost structure, and if we're lucky, intrinsic value kind of explodes as they begin to gear. We're chasm seekers, so for those of you that have enjoyed reading Jeffrey Moore's books about that, we're trying to catch companies kind of after the paradigm shift, but just before the rising tide, if you will. So that's basically what we try to do. We get the privilege of working with some really fascinating, fun companies, and it keeps us on our toes. Now we're going to go through the description of some of the companies that we've nominated. So Sim, why don't you lead off and tell us about your nominees?
Oh, I nominated a company whose name is Veracode, and CEO Mike Moynihan and VP of Program Management Ashish Larve here. You hear from them later on. The company is actually very interesting history. It was a spin-out from a much larger company. It's a spin-out from Symantec, and it's in the security space, dealing with a very interesting problem, which is that fundamentally security is a black art. And we build software worth many, many billions of dollars, which runs very critical aspects of our lives, everything from hospitals to airline reservation systems to banking systems. And ultimately, if we ask the question, how secure is the software, we cannot answer that question in a quantitative way. Sort of a lot of hand-waving ensues, and ultimately it boils down to, we hired some hacker types and they hammered on the software and couldn't really break it, so we think we're secure. And so Veracode is fundamentally approaching this problem in a very methodical and quantitative way, being able to sort of fundamentally shift the economics of how one can quantify software risk and hence operating risk and how you deal with software. And that's a piece of a much larger trend in sort of software being still primarily art and a lot less science. Sort of you build bridges, civil engineers, that's a science. Hardware in a way has nearly become a science, and software is still pretty much art, and therefore you'll see every piece of software come with a limited liability, saying, yeah, it probably does what it's supposed to do, but if you lose any money using it, it's certainly not our fault.
We nominated 2 companies this year for a variety of reasons, but largely because I think both of them will make us lots of money, which is what we try to do for our limited partners. But also because I think they're both companies that really exemplify what's going on in the world today. The first company you'll hear about, I think, in the next Firestarter session, a company called Chipin.com, very, very much on the bleeding edge of Web 2.0, social networking, looking for ways to try and monetize that power and harness that power in really innovative ways. They basically have a variety of widget platforms that I call digital wormholes. How do you get the information that you want to get out to the edge of the internet, to someone's blog, to their MySpace page? How do you create a way to control that flow of content from a central server, from a company, out to the edge for those, for yourself and for those individuals in a safe way? And that's a really interesting problem, and they have a great solution. So you'll hear more about that. The other company, you've heard already, Hawaii Nanosciences, actually a company out of Boston that we're in the process of relocating to Hawaii, but they're growing so quickly that it's hard to uproot them, move them out to the sunny islands. What I like about Hawaii Nanosciences is it really exemplifies for me the confluence of disparate scientific endeavors. It's kind of what this conference is all about, right? We're not just technology. We're not just renewable energy. We're not just healthcare. It's everything. And David Sohn, who's the leader of that company, is a very successful entrepreneur. And he likes to find nano solutions for mature industries that really disrupt that industry, but in a way that always feeds back into sustainability, to being a responsible resident of this earth. And they've got a great section in the back there. You can go and hear about all the products, but just an amazing company with amazing opportunities across a lot of different sectors.
Excellent. I nominated 4 companies, and by the way, I think we're all really excited about the way this program is working. It'll be very interesting to see how these companies mature over time. I often say the companies that we invest in are like 15-year-old boys. We know they're going to grow like hell from 15 to 20, but we also know they got to turn 16, 17, 18, and probably have some stitches and do some awkward things. They're immature, but we think rapidly growing companies. The first one was Altair Nano, who presented this morning, truly addressing a revolutionary area. All of these companies, by the way, will impact each and every one of you and your families. So it's one of the criteria we look for. We want big ideas, not niche ideas. Altair is clearly transforming the energy industry into a world of digital power, and they address, a market defined in billions of dollars, either in stored power, stationary power, as well as motive power. The second company has also presented this morning, iCAD. iCAD is again addressing this whole shift into the world of digital medicine, proactive instead of reactive medicine. Others have spoken much more eloquently today and earlier this week about this, but iCAD brings a tool set that helps this shortage of radiologists process the workflow coming out of these exquisitely sophisticated, large, big iron CT scanners and the like. And so they are going to truly do catch more cancers more often, which, and it will impact, again, each and one of us and our families. The third company, which you'll hear from this afternoon, is USA Technologies. And sometimes I tell people about USA Technologies, and you say, well, they have this technology, it goes on vending machines, and everybody goes, wow, gee whiz, what's cool about that? Well, there's $1.4 trillion in the United States that's transacted in cash and coin. There's $46 billion transacted in cash and coin in vending machines. It's a big market. And these guys bring technology that it connects to a proprietary network and allows the owners and the CPG companies that are pushing product through these points of sale to accept cash, coin, debit, credit, near-field communications. Mark spoke about e-wallets. It's not something of the future, it's here today. There are devices being deployed today throughout the United States that are capable of accepting payment off your phone. It's really quite exciting, and the interesting thing, everybody can kind of see, oh, gee whiz, isn't this fun? I can buy something with my credit card, and you think vending machine. The bigger picture is it absolutely changes the paradigm of unattended retail, because you no longer have a point of sale, you no longer have a price point that is limited by your ability to accept payment. It's very exciting, and they address this tiny little market defined in billions of dollars. The last company is Zix Corp, and Zix is a great company. It's got a wonderful history of surviving the 90s, and out of all that, and out of all the money that was spent in that process, they have developed a highly robust, it's truly a 5 nines secure on-demand software platform. And they address two key segments. One is encryption of email, and the other is e-prescription. Each of these things are going to touch you and everybody in your family and your businesses. The Federal Reserve, if you want to communicate with the Federal Reserve, you cross the Zix encrypted email server. If you want to communicate with 900 hospitals and more, there will be an explosion in patient and payer and provider intercommunications that are going to cross over, have to cross over, secure 5 nines infrastructure. Zix brings the technology and the infrastructure for that to happen. Relative to e-prescription marketplace, Rick, was it 500 million prescriptions a year? Something like that, you hear? How much? 3.2 billion, thank you. A lot. And a lot of them are just still handwritten. I mean, you look at this and you think, how brain dead can these guys be in this world? But all of this is going to happen digitally. All of this is going to happen on form factors that are as sophisticated as what you all have in your pockets today. all of them are going to, and we're going to avoid 1.5 million adverse medical events because of the technology that they lead. So again, it's, they address this tiny little market that some people define as $600 million a year of annual recurring revenue. So those are the things we try to do. These are all public companies as opposed to private companies. Next, let's, we're moving right along here. This is good.
Go ahead.
Now, we got some people here that are quite capable of spending all day telling you about the one big idea, but we're going to try to limit it to one big idea. So, Joe, tell us, take your stab at it.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I can do it in one, but I'll try and be succinct anyway. I think I'd start off by saying, if you look at the areas to cover which we feel are really interesting, there's been a lot of discussion about solar and other things. I'd say water is an area that really hasn't come out very strongly today. I think that is a really interesting area. I think that is the next oil coming up. I think there's a lot of interesting water reclamation and recycling technologies that I think we're pretty excited about. I think the second comment I'd make is don't forget Europe. There's been more billion-dollar companies created and sold in Europe recently than in the States. So that's not an often known fact. And there's some fantastic technology being developed over there. And, I think investors are starting to see that actually it's an area which is really pretty interesting as a space versus, say, Asia, where there's been a lot of hype recently.
And you're quite active in Israel as well?
We have a partnering relationship in Israel. I think we do try and access the technologies there. I think, we're a great partner for the Israeli market to help them break out of that sort of quite small local market and become more international as a business. I think my final comment, if I could quickly, is if we look at our own industry, the investment world, I just think there's just far too many of us, actually. And there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of money chasing not too many good investment propositions. And I think if we look at ourselves, we've probably got to realize there's a shake-up coming. And I think the ones that will survive are those who actually provide a genuinely differentiated proposition to companies. And our belief at 3i is very firmly, be international, help companies become international, and actually have the credentials to help people have that reach and visibility around the world.
Excellent. Sam?
Goodness. Many wise venture capitalists will tell you that if you're supposed to talk about the hot markets, you're really not doing a good job at investing, because by the time the venture guys figure out what are the hot markets, then by definition they're not hot, because we are lagging indicators of innovation usually. And if you look at some of the sort of biggest companies around the world, very few of them are actually got their major value increases by doing the thing that they told their funders they were going to do at funding time. So that said, obviously a big new area that everybody in venture is looking at is clean tech and enertech. Lots of opportunity there and lots of huge challenges, mostly having to do with very, very complex value chains and dealing with governments, which is a big problem. I can't talk about life sciences, but I'll be remiss if I don't mention that our life sciences team is seeing just a fantastic flow of fundamentally different and new kinds of companies, both on the medical device and on the biotech side, enabled by advances in technology. And so we're very, very excited about this being a sort of continuing stream of great innovation. And if you read sort of Ray Kurzweil's thoughts on the point of singularity, there's a slight possibility that we might all live forever. I think it will be a terribly boring thing. And finally, in technology, the landscape is extremely diverse. And my personal preference is to look at platform companies that fundamentally eliminate friction. And by eliminating friction, you effectively create markets. That lots and lots of examples all around the world where, for example, the cost of experimentation in certain spaces is too high. High cost of experimentation means not enough supply of innovation, means not enough things get given a little trial in the Darwinian bloodbath of the markets, and therefore we don't benefit as well. Mobile is one such area. Mobile, due to the control of carriers, particularly in the US, has been a space that innovation has been lagging.
Hey,
but
Sam,
that will
That's a lot of one big things. Hawaii is the one big thing. I think actually that Hawaii gives us a chance to see the next big thing. And by that, I think to sort of take what you said and pull it all together in a way, what I'm seeing is all of these things that we've been talking about for 5 years at FiRe are coming together. Are you a nanotechnology company? Are you an oil recovery company? Wait a minute, you're the same thing. Are you biodiesel? Are you nanotech? Are you, all these disparate disciplines that we've been looking at are starting to come together. Computing is sort of controlling or integrating all these different sectors. And I'm seeing at least a lot of interaction across sectors, whether it's healthcare, oil, biodiesel, clean tech, whatever it is, they're all coming together, and it becomes difficult to really define what some of these companies are. So I would say the next 5 years, we're going to see companies and technologies and business sectors converging, coalescing, and creating amazing new things, and we're going to start to see some of those solutions.
Barry.
Well, I have one with 5 subparts, but and I would certainly agree with all the ones that the other people on the panel have said. Maybe we'd look offshore. There's a lot of opportunity in the U.S. and Europe. We're very excited about things in India and China. There's just tremendous growth and tremendous opportunity there. We didn't nominate a particular company as a fire starter, but a group that I put in that candidate, or that pool would be 5 companies. We've invested in 5 different ones in China. In the semiconductor space around the handset. And we all have our cell phones here and handsets. These companies are all directed at developing the various chips, baseband, RF, amplifier chips, application processor for the next billion users, the cell phones that are going to go under $25. And what's really interesting when you start to go to India or China as examples, you could pick Africa and the Middle East, are the sheer numbers of people that haven't yet embraced some of the technologies that we take for granted now, that we use, that our kids use, and they're just ready to do that, but you have to hit it at price points and with features and functions that address them. So I would say that's an area we think is very exciting.
I'm going last, so I may have more than one thing. No, I think the thing that pretty well consumes my thinking is this transition from a paradigm of scarcity to a paradigm of abundance. There's been a lot of talk about energy, and I hit the double nickel about a week or so ago. I'm 55 years old, and I worked in the oil industry. And I know when the oil guys are telling you we're running out of oil, we aren't. When the politicians are telling us that things are bad, it's not. When the economists are saying we have no savings, we got lots of savings. By the way, you ought to count capital gains. When you hear this, excuse me, Mark, but you hear this BS about no savings in America, they don't count your portfolio, which is pretty stupid. But anyway, so big things that might energize me and where we're going to focus our attentions. Someone once asked me, how do you find your deals? And I said, well, I look out my window. It's all around us, and we have transforming digital technologies that are happening and touching things we do. And so there's no shortage. It's a golden age of investment, actually. There may be a lot of us, but there's a knock-on effect from being a lot of us. We're out stimulating entrepreneurship. We're creating value. And now, with all those millions and billions of people in India and China that are now connecting and playing by our set of rules, it's unbelievable. I listen to XM radio. Some of you might do it. And you listen to CNBC on the weekends, and they're talking about CNBC Pakistan and CNBC China and
Vietnam.
CNBC, and they're saying the same things we say. So they're playing by our rules, which is going to liberate and expand the addressable markets for all this technology. So we've got some time for some questions. Anybody would like to weigh in? Oh, surely there's some questions out there. You're smart people.
Questions were
Well, don't just
great.
smile at me. Give me a question. You right there, beach lady, putting the finger on you. Huh? Sure you have a question. Okay. Well, I guess we will be around later on. The companies are going to be presenting in the back. I encourage you all to visit with them, ask them some good questions. And we're real pleased to be here. And thank you very much for letting us get up and share your afternoon with you.
Thank you.